At Thanksgiving, my sister uncovered my $12 million net worth, and my family demanded I give it all to her. For privacy, I'll use a throwaway name and tweak a few specifics. I'm Sarah, 38, and I've got to get this off my chest. You know those families where one child can do no wrong, and the other might as well be invisible? That was me. Up until age 8, I was an only kid. Mom helped me with homework. Dad took me fishing on Lake St. Clair. We weren't the Brady Bunch, but we were fine. Until the night my sister Rachel was born. 2 months early. It was 2 a.m. when Aunt Kelly woke me. Pack a bag. Mom's in ICU. Weeks of sterile visits, bleach fumes, hand sanitizer stations. Rachel, hooked to tubes, looked like a porcelain doll. At first I thought it was an adventure. Cookies at Grandma's, Nancy Drew books at Aunt Kelly's. But every time I sneezed, I was whisked away. Tiny cough, pack your bags. I realized I was not on an adventure, I was a biohazard. It hit me hard how differently I was seen. How isolated I felt even in my own home. The laughter and joy others found were doors that remained locked to me. That constant exclusion stung more than any physical illness. I tried harder. Straight A's. Science fair first prize, renewable energy volcano. Dad said, "Great job, Sarah. Just store the board in the garage. Rachel's allergic to cardboard dust." It felt like a punch to the gut, like my achievements were invisible, just cluttered to be tucked away. I wondered how much more I had to prove, and if anyone would ever truly see me. When I was 12, I practiced bridge over troubled water on piano for 6 months. The notes became my escape, my way of expressing everything I couldn't say. Each evening, I'd pour my heart into those keys, hoping someone would notice. Guess who had no audience? The silence was deafening, a stark contrast to Rachel's cheering crowd. It was a moment that quietly broke me, but also fueled my determination. I swore that someday someone would pay attention to what I could accomplish. 2 weeks later, the entire clan flew in for Rachel's 15-minute flute recital. Hot cross buns. She nailed it. And learned to wield our system like a pro. At home, any hint of illness sent me away. The coldness of being sent away was a heavy weight I carried every day. The house felt like a battleground where I constantly had to prove I was worthy. Rachel feigned migraines to dodge school. When I studied for tests, Mom rang my teachers begging extensions. I retreated to my lavender-free safe room. My bedroom became my sanctuary, the only place where I could breathe freely. Books lined every surface. Art history, ancient civilizations, anything that transported me far from this reality. The walls held my dreams, my plans, my quiet rebellion. Grandma Marie, my only champion, sparked my love of vintage jewelry. She saw me, really saw me, in a way no one else did. It was her kindness and encouragement that lit a fire under me. Shara, you have a gift for seeing beauty where others see junk. Those afternoons sorting through her jewelry box taught me patience, attention to detail, and most importantly, that value isn't always obvious. If only I knew. That dusty hobby would become my golden ticket. In high school, I joined every club, Carson's Diner Shifts, debate team, state champ, twice, National Honor Society president. The debate team was where I found my voice, sharp, analytical, unshakable. I learned to argue with facts, not emotions,
to win through preparation, not popularity. Every victory felt like proof that I mattered, even if my family didn't notice. Rachel built her drama empire as JV cheer captain. My color-coded desk was Rain Man level. Her C+ in English celebrated on the fridge magnet. The contrast was painful, but clear. I had to be perfect to be ignored, while she could be mediocre and celebrated. I stopped expecting fairness and started building my own success metric. Junior year, I scored a perfect 1600 on the SAT. Less than 1% achieved that. I sprinted home, clutching the results. This was it, my moment of recognition, my chance to finally be seen. Mom was in the kitchen with Rachel's English flashcards. She barely glanced up. "That's nice, honey. Keep it down. Rachel's studying." Invisible again. That moment was a familiar heartbreak I knew too well. It became a bitter reminder of how little I mattered, but instead of breaking me, it steeled my resolve. If they wouldn't celebrate my achievements, I'd build achievements they couldn't ignore. I applied to 15 universities, wrote essays myself, wrangled recommendations, filed financial aid with Mr. Chen, my guidance counselor MVP. Those late nights in the library crafting applications alone taught me self-reliance. Every essay was a piece of my soul, every recommendation a bridge to my future. I was building an escape route, one application at a time. Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Michigan, full scholarships. I hid the acceptance letters under my bed, knowing Rachel would find them and derail my future. When Michigan called, I wept, relief washing over me, alone in the library window seat. Those tears weren't just relief. They were years of pent-up hope finally finding release. I was going to escape. I was going to matter somewhere. I told my family at dinner, "I'm off to Michigan." They cheered. Michigan? So far! Then asked how they'd afford it. The irony wasn't lost on me. They'd never saved a penny for my education, yet worried about costs. Meanwhile, Rachel's cheerleading gear kept arriving in Amazon boxes weekly. Microwave mac and cheese in my room. They celebrated Rachel's JV cheer tryouts with Olive Garden. That night, eating alone, I made a promise to myself. Someday, I'd have enough success that their approval wouldn't matter. Someday, I'd be too busy succeeding to notice their indifference. After graduation, I landed at a prestigious Detroit auction house, tagging along Grandma's jewelry lessons. Those skills Grandma taught me, patience, observation, the art of seeing hidden value, suddenly had purpose. I wasn't just cataloging jewelry, I was uncovering stories, histories, fortunes. In my first assignment, the Kingston estate, I spotted a plain Art Deco brooch. Something about it whispered secrets. The weight, the craftsmanship, the tiny signature most would miss. Did research, took an online gemology course. Lunch break deep dives. I spent every free moment learning, researching, becoming an expert. The internet became my university. Authentication databases, my textbooks. While others saw costume jewelry, I saw possibility. Presented comparative images to my boss, Mr. Harrison. He dismissed it as costume jewelry. I proved it authentic. The brooch sold for $47,000. Suddenly, I mattered. For the first time, I felt the weight of my own worth. I realized my hard work could finally change how others saw me. My childhood of being overlooked had taught me to see what others missed. In months, I authenticated pieces worth millions. My commission checks outstripped my old diner tips.
But I kept it secret. Keeping my success hidden was exhausting but necessary. I feared the backlash of acknowledgement more than failure itself. Sunday dinners still assumed I worked at Grandma's basement workshop. The lies became automatic, protective armor against their expectations. Rachel flaunted her $200 Michael Kors. I quietly wore Harry Winston. No one noticed. The irony was delicious, sitting there in authentic luxury while they praised her mall purchases. I'd become invisible in plain sight, hiding success behind their assumptions. As I rose, my parents stayed oblivious. Years passed. My business grew. Offices in 3 cities, clients worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Yet every Sunday, I'd sit at their table playing the role of struggling daughter. Part of me enjoyed the secret. Part of me ached to be seen. 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, Mom panicked, cooking for 20. Her herniated disc flared up. I offered to cater. She said they couldn't afford it. "Mom, I've been saving," I said. "Don't worry about cost." She still fretted about loans. The assumption that I was barely scraping by had become their truth. I booked my high-end corporate caterer anyway. Thanksgiving morning, I set up in my childhood room, my old sanctuary, the same 4 walls that had witnessed my tears, my dreams, my quiet rebellion. Family feasted on maple-glazed Brussels, truffle butternut squash, dishes that cost more per plate than their weekly grocery budget. Rachel sneered, "Store-bought stuffing." Mom cringed. I smiled, inwardly. Then Rachel borrowed my phone charger, glanced at my laptop. That moment, the pivot point where secrets collide with reality. My screen, normally guarded like Fort Knox, suddenly exposed to prying eyes. Bank balance, $12.4 million. Pending, $485,000 contract. $1.2 million auction sale. She burst into the dining room. 20 relatives paused mid-bite. I watched Rachel's face transform from confusion to shock to something like rage. The golden child discovering her invisible sister wasn't so invisible after all. Silence. Long pause. Mom giggled. "Sarah works at that little antique shop." My screen showed otherwise. 3 offices, Fortune 500 clients, a Forbes mention. Actually, I own one of the largest jewelry authentication firms in the Midwest. Dad choked on wine. Aunt Kelly dropped her fork. The table erupted. "Why didn't you share? You owe us. Your sister has student loans." Silence again. That heavy silence was filled with so much unsaid pain and bitterness. It was the calm before another storm. Just the ticking of Grandma's old clock. I stood. All those years of debate team, of finding my voice, led to this moment. You shipped me off for sneezes, missed every recital and award to spare Rachel's feelings. You never saved for my college, took loans for her private schooling. You treated me as if I were inconvenient. I built myself on grit and my own merits. My voice cracked. Emotions I had buried for decades surfaced all at once.
Years of pain poured out in that moment, raw and real. Mom's face twitching red. Rachel sobbed, "I deserved it!" Uncle nearly fainted. The entitlement was breathtaking. Even in the face of my success, she believed she deserved what I earned. The system that had protected her for 30 years was crumbling. Caterers hovered, awkward. I packed my Hermes tote, yes, genuine, not the mall knockoff they assumed, and left. BMW idling outside. My phone blew up. 50 missed calls. 200 texts. "Come home. We need to talk. Share the wealth." I changed numbers. Moved into a secured condo. They sued for a trust fund setup. I canceled monthly transfers. Yes, I'd been secretly supporting them for years. Grandma Marie called. "Good for you, Sarah." Therapist said I'd set healthy boundaries. Finally, I felt free. That feeling of freedom was hard-earned and deeply deserved. It was the start of a new chapter, one where I no longer needed approval. Years of being overlooked taught me self-reliance. My childhood asthma treatment exile sharpened my negotiation skills, debate victories, and eye for hidden value. What felt like rejection forged resilience. Today, I thrive on authenticity, not approval. The invisible child learned to see what others couldn't. The overlooked daughter built something they couldn't ignore. The family disappointment discovered her own worth. If you've ever felt unseen, remember, your worth isn't defined by others' favoritism. Quiet perseverance can lead to extraordinary success. Sometimes the greatest victory is living well without their validation. Sometimes freedom means walking away from those who never saw you coming. Thank you for listening. If this story inspired you, hit subscribe, share it with a friend who needs to hear it, and leave a comment on your own invisible child experience. We'll see you next time with another unbelievable Reddit tale.